All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very special Facebook Live tonight. I have two wonderful ladies that are dear friends of mine from Odessa, Texas, that are with me this evening. We have Apostle Katherine or Kathy Pena, and we also have Andrea Hess. And I always want to say Andrea, and she says, no, it's Andrea because I would rather be a than a an. So I always have to catch myself and make sure I say her name correctly. But these are some dear, wonderful friends that I've known for a few years and have had the privilege to be with them in person in Odessa for some meetings. And looking forward to this year. I'll be with them again come the fall and looking forward to being with them. But this is a unique pairing. They are some unique ladies because not only are they an apostle and a prophet, but they're an apostle and a prophet that are linked together. They're joined together in the same metron, in the same work, in the same local fellowship, in the same apostolic hub, and two ladies that are an apostle and a prophet that are joined together. It's just enough to give religious spirits a headache, I'm telling you what. But I'm excited that they are here. So I'm going to allow each one of you to go ahead and introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your ministry and if whatever y'all want to talk about tonight. And get into the nitty gritty, the real, however, it flows and goes. We just want to minister to folks. Oh, look, there's my son. There's Jimbo from Kentucky. Just popped in. Hey, buddy, how are you? Good to see you tonight. Apostle Kathy, why don't we start with you?
Oh, you would.
Of course I would. Just get your nose bloody. Jump right in.
Well, what do y'all want to know?
Tell everybody about you, how long you've been around, your ministry experience, whatever. Just
Well,
the 2-3 minute bio.
I'm 67 years old. I just turned 67 in this month. And I've been in ministry about 40-something years. Knew I was called to ministry when I was 11. Actually, my mom was taking a nap, and I was listening to an Ernest hymn album, and I loved that album. I didn't really like Ernest Tubb very much. Mom did, but I loved the album because I loved the gospel music. And all of a sudden, I just I'm going to be a preacher.
Might just as well.
And so I went and woke my mother up and told her, Mom, I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. And she said, oh, really? She wasn't really happy with me about it. But I said, I'm going to be a preacher. And I said, because Dickie Scott needs to get saved.
Whatever it takes.
But, there was somebody that I had a crush on. But the truth of the matter is that was really, I knew that's what I knew somehow that's what I would be. And so there was I educated myself to do administrative secretarial work. And I also even played around with becoming a nurse, only because I wanted to be the administrator of the hospital and not because I really wanted to be a nurse. Somebody told me if you become an RN, you get to be an administrator. You could be an administrator. And I always liked being the boss. So that worked real good.
It's going to be one of those nights. I can see that right now.
It worked anyway. So I'm just telling you, this is how it was from the time I was very young. I'm the oldest of 5 children. And so it's like being the boss just comes natural to me. I've had to learn to tone it down. But anyways, I just knew that from the time I was 11 that I didn't really know what preaching and stuff was all about really, but I just knew that was what I was called to do. And it was in the early 80s when I got to step through the door through our Christian school, and then the pastor came, Pastor Jack and Jean Oden came, and he identified me. He was a prophet, and he identified me that I was a God called teacher. So I walked in that for many years and served here in the church however I could serve in women's ministry, prayer ministry. I led the prayer ministry for years, and went, been working in a glow for over 30 years. Served as a leader in a glow for 30 years. And 2017, when Pastor Jean passed away, that's when we decided that we were going to go full swing into becoming what we were in our DNA, not just operate and function as a traditional church, but step into the fivefold and the apostolic, and become the apostolic hub that we were supposed to be. And it's been a journey, and we're still on that journey. And we've had lots of opportunities to want to not do it.
Yeah, you get those regularly, absolutely.
But even at that, we just continue, and God is faithful. And now it's Andrea's turn.
Pass it to me now. Well,
Enough said about me.
I'm honored to be linked with Kathy. We've actually had a long relationship, so we know each other very, very well. Since she was my teacher. I call her Mama Kathy because she has been a spiritual mama to me and many here in our house. But we have been, like, how old was I when I first?
5
years old. So it was
5.
It has been, yes.
This many.
And she spoke into my life. And what I love about who Kathy is and why I'm honored to partner with her is I know, it's just like a mom. They pray you through things. They are your biggest cheerleader. And she saw the gift and callings in my life probably way before I did. And way before, I recognized it, because I try to talk myself out of stuff. Like, I know what I don't want, but you can't really run from the call of God on your life. And I didn't really try to run, but she would always push me out when I probably needed to be. But I would always tell her, I'm not ready. It's not time. And it didn't matter to her what my excuses were, because she saw something there. And so it really did help me to grow up and mature. And so I love, our church is Full Gospel Covenant Church here in Odessa, Texas. And it is a great place for to see really the freedom. There's a different, when you have an apostolic prophetic foundation, you can feel it when you walk in the house. There is a different kind of authority in the atmosphere, and there's a different presence. To me, it's tangible, and you can feel that. And there's a freedom in our worship that really has been established over years. Yes. It didn't just happen, but our relationship, has just kind of grown. And so when we stepped into this place, it was not hard for us to step into that place. Now, it wasn't easy in the fact that there was a lot of opposition that came, a lot of voices that try to tell you how to do it, or, all that other stuff. I mean, I remember, I'm kind of rattling on, but I remember when I picked you up at the airport, Michael, and I was like, and you get in my car and I'm like, well, we're trying to do this apostolic prophetic thing. Like, here we are, we're in it. We kind of jumped off the cliff, and, this is where we're at, and we're going to do it, and it was a challenge. It felt like all hell, came out against us. and things that you just don't expect sometimes. But it was definitely a challenging time, but I think now it's becoming more easy, more, we know our role,
Yes.
and
learning our roles,
Yes.
our roles. And you actually helped us with that tremendously.
Why
Yes.
don't we get into a little bit about even how we got into relationship and how we got to know each other? Because that's kind of a unique story, and
Yes.
I don't care who goes.
Okay.
Andrea shared you and Angie were doing a live. This was back in, oh gosh, early 20. You came in was it the first Lions and Eagles was in 19, right? So it had to be very early in 2019 that she shared your Facebook page to me, and what you and Angie were doing. And it was just like, wow, this is, for one thing, it was helping us. It helped clarify some things, brought some clarity, things but you're not sure of, because you're walking through something that's new for you as a group of people, and the maturity. And so I just decided when we were getting ready for Lions and Eagles, I thought, well, I really like that guy to come. And because of the maturity, Apostle Michael, there was maturity and balance, and you're not off the rails. It's and we know that you have walked through things, and we know that Prophetess Angie has. And so I just emailed you and invited you, and you asked me a few questions, and I gave you the answers, and you said yes, and here we are.
And that was 2019, October 2019 was when I came to Odessa the first time. And then this past October, I came back and Angie came with me.
Yes.
And now we're fixing to come back again here in the fall, and we're looking forward to it. Now, I remember my first trip to Odessa, and I remember that God had me up in the middle of the night, both nights before I was going to speak. Or actually the night before I was going to speak, as I spoke a morning and an evening on a Saturday, and Eliel did the Saturday afternoon, but I did the morning and the evening. And God had me up in the middle of the night and told me what he wanted me to do in the morning, what he wanted me to do at night, told me what I was to prophesy to the two of you, with which, Anthony went ahead and confirmed and said that he saw the same thing, and he knew it. And I knew that God was doing something special in you, and that God did set you together. And, many times when we do a wedding, we say at a wedding, what God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. I believe the same thing happens with ministry partnerships, with ministry assignments. And when God takes an apostle and a prophet and puts them together, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. Let not man separate this joining. And I believe I may have even said that to you.
Yes, you did.
When I was there. And I knew that God had put you together. And now that I've been with you 2 years in a row and I've watched you in operation, I've noticed that you have developed some of the things that I have developed, like with my mom and dad, and things that I've developed with Angie. I've noticed that you two communicate without words.
Yeah.
I noticed that you look at each other and, like, you guys know, you have this thing going. You just know what each other's thinking. You know what each other is about to do. And you trust each other when it comes to the flow of the Spirit. You don't have any jealousy about who's doing what. I've watched it in operation. Now, I'm sure that you're flowing in something now that you just didn't start flowing in.
Right.
No.
Talk about the process of this in real life and make it as brutally honest and as blunt, because people are watching and will watch that. They've heard that apostles and prophets are supposed to be linked, but we don't see very many examples of apostles and prophets being linked. And you're a pair that's linked, and you do it with humility and with honor. How did you get to that place where you're flowing like you're flowing now?
Honestly, I think it's just the relationship. You know, I started speaking into her life when she was 5 years old.
Yeah, there's a trust there. And I think that is very key when you're going to link with someone, that you really need to know them and their character.
I mean, we've traveled together. We've done things together. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Literally.
I mean, and it's just, you know, when you talk about, I know that not everybody has that. You had it with your parents, so you can relate to that. I've been in her life almost, I mean, gosh, all of her life, almost all of her life. She was 5, you know, and I'm going to tell you, looking at this little girl when she was 5, it's like she had old eyes. Have you ever seen someone with old eyes? You got this little person, but the eyes are old in the sense that, like, they know things. But there was also a sadness. And I wanted to speak into, to get her to, you know, I just loved her. So, and her grandmother, she was here with her grandmother a lot when she was little. And when I was around, I would give her attention, and wasn't really hard.
I mean, easy to love.
She's easy to love, but sometimes she can be stubborn.
Oh, yes.
She's very stubborn.
Yeah.
Stubborn.
But she knows me, and because we know each other, I think it makes that dynamic flow well. And that's not to say that even though we know each other, that we haven't had difficulties.
Oh, yeah.
In this role. And one of the things that I think may be important to speak about is, you know, when we began, it's like the enemy tried to separate us. Immediately. And that was really the war that we faced from the beginning. And even though she's known me since I was 5, even though, you know, I grew up under her and she was my teacher, and, you know, and she worked for me for a period of time. I mean, we have a really connected relationship. Even though we had such a connected relationship, the enemy still, his main MO was to separate us in our relationship. And why is that? Because we need to be linked. And so when you came and you spoke that word,
yes,
it really was key for us, because it settled some things. Really, it really kind of shut the mouth of the enemy, literally, because there was just all kind. I mean, you can imagine it. I'm going to talk about it briefly, just because I think people need to hear it, probably because they've experienced it, and maybe they didn't make it through the process, and maybe they did, or maybe they're in it. But I mean, people were trying to tell her that I was a Jezebel. They were trying to call her an Ahab. I mean, all of those things were going on, and it's not even in my character. I mean, it's just not. But there was all of this stuff going on behind the scenes, people whispering here, people talking here, just trying to stir things up. And that spirit was just trying really to split us apart, to destroy the work of the ministry that God had for our house. And being two women too. I mean, you know, you got that attack coming at you because you're two women, and you're, you know, it's not that we're necessarily pioneering anything because it's in the Word, but we're actually stepping into what God has called us to do. And we're going, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it how the Word says to do it. And, you know, as soon as you start standing in that place of authority, then you got religious spirits going, well, where's the man?
You know? The truth is, brother, I made some mistakes. I mean, as a leader, there's some things like, you know, hindsight's 2020.
Right.
And in the beginning, because we were really excited and we were on this new journey, and I did some things too quick, and I made some mistakes, and I have to own them. And I think those mistakes made us both the target. And so you have to own that. And when I began to realize that, you know, I made some mistakes.
And I was in her office. I mean, bless her heart, she got tired of seeing me. She got tired of seeing me. She'd be like, what is it now? She got tired of hearing that I was feeling this thing or that thing. And she wasn't getting it from just me. There was lots of people trying to tell her.
There was lots of people that were feeling this or feeling that. And you got to listen to them all. I mean, from my position, I've got to listen to them. I got to listen to them all because everybody's important.
Right.
Everybody's important and everybody matters. And so it's hard sometimes to work through, okay, so what part of this is emotions? What part of this is actually the demonic and you're dealing with this enemy? And I knew we were dealing with not that anybody in our church was, or in our hub was actually a Jezebel. Nobody was, but that spiritual force was coming at us big time. But what do you expect when you're a prophetic house?
Yeah, it hates you.
Right.
Anybody that knows that they're a prophetic and an apostolic prophetic house, who is our enemy? So what was the same thing we're seeing in our nation? Who is our enemy? And so you've got to know who your enemy is, and you have to recognize your enemy, and you have to deal with your enemy. And we all have to walk through that place we're all on that journey, and then we have to learn to walk through it together as a corporate group of people. And we got through it. I mean, we got through it, and so we got mistakes, but we've got some good times too.
And we
Absolutely.
And we did learn. I mean, thank God you can say that, okay, I made some mistakes, but I've learned from that, and by the grace of God, I'll not do that again.
You learn, and then you take that learning experience and you go, okay, now you kind of know what to look out for. And it gives you some more wisdom and understanding, and then you don't question, because that's part of it too, is sometimes you want to believe the best. You don't want to see, you know, the negative things, but sometimes when you ignore it, it costs you some things. And so I think we did really learn from that, and you know, we even made some, I think, protocols and different things out of that, where, okay, we're going to have to set a standard for some things, because we can't just allow just anybody to come in here and, you know, no matter what their gifting is, whatever, unless they're submitted to the authority of the house.
And the vision.
And the vision of the house, you can't be a leader of the house, you know, and that's really a no-brainer. But sometimes you're just like, okay, warm bodies that are coming in, they have ministry gifts, let's let them go to work. But
you can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, that's the thing to learn.
You can't. And if they're not really joined with you, it's going to end up causing issues, and it can become very hard, and it can cause actual church splits. It can cause other issues, because they have a plan and they have an agenda, and it isn't the leader's plan or the leader's agenda. And it's really important for your leadership teams to be on the same page. and to be together in that, or it's just going to cause a lot of just disunity and issues that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I look at the two of you, I think in terms of biblical partnerships or biblical pairings. And, you know, when you look at scripture, you see that Peter and John were often together. And when it comes to, but they were two apostles that were functioning together.
Mhm.
But then you look at the apostle prophet pairing or the coming together, it seems like there's two types when we look at the New Testament. You know, we can see that Paul had a relationship with Agabus,
Yes.
but they really weren't linked together. They weren't partnered together. They didn't do ministry together, although they knew each other. But then you had the Paul Silas type of apostle prophet relationship, and they were linked together. And they did ministry together, they traveled together, they were partnered together in every sense of the word. We also see that at one time Paul was partnered with Barnabas.
Yes.
But, you know, Andrea, you had said before that the enemy's plan is always, you know, separate. It's divide and separate, divide and separate. And we said, you know, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder.
Right.
And so the enemy succeeded in Paul and Barnabas.
Yes.
And got them separated. And I think Paul may have learned something from that. And that when he got partnered with Silas, they stayed partners from there on out. There was never that separation that we could see. Now, when I look at the two of you, I see you very much like the relationship that I have with Angie. And, you know, Angie and I are that very structured relationship of an apostle prophet that we function as a team. We work together, we flow together. And when I look at the two of you, I see the same thing. I've been with you in your hub, in your local house, your local fellowship during the conference the last 2 years, and I watch you together. And I know how you flow, and I can see that it's that type of a relationship. What did you learn, or how did you recognize that it was the enemy that was trying to make that division? How did you counteract it and say, we're not going to let the enemy do this and not let him separate what God has joined together? Don't all speak at once.
Well, I mean, I think part of it was just knowing that you're called, knowing that you have a job to do. And, you know, the enemy, it's just like the big bad wolf. He's huffing and he's puffing, you know, and he's threatening and he's, you know, wanting to blow your whole house down. And you've got to make sure that you can stand all of that. But I think for me too, I mean, I think for us, it was that depth of relationship that really helped us. And the fact that I did probably come to her a lot, and she, you know, she has a lot of trust in me and I have a lot of trust in her too, but there was still a lot of things coming at both of us. And so, you know, coming out on the other side of that, you know, you can just kind of look back at that and go, wow, that was a rough season, you know.
Actually, it's the first time in my life in ministry that I actually wanted to quit.
Yeah, it was rough.
But I knew I couldn't quit. For one thing, that ain't the kind of, that's not in me, because that's not, it's just not in me, because I've been through a lot of things in my life where the Lord has kept me. And when you've got an assignment, it really doesn't matter. I mean, I went through things here before I was in this place for many years. And there was, you know, there's always, when you talk about a group of people, you're going to have unfairness and injustices. Those things happen. The politics, you don't like them, you don't want them, but they do happen. Right. And So I had to live through some things. I never got to leave, even when I thought I'd get to leave, because I had been given an assignment. And as long as my assignment was alive, I had to stay.
And
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That it's you don't have, I'm not my own.
Mhm.
I don't belong to myself.
You've been bought with a price.
I've been bought with a price, and that has been so in me, Apostle Michael, since the early 80s. I don't belong to myself. So there's some things. It was just like when I married my husband. There's things I don't do because I belong to him. I'm in covenant with him. And so when the Lord sends you or tells you, I thought, we all thought when Pastor Jean passed away that we could leave. The Lord just let us know real quick, ain't nobody going nowhere. Because you're just now fixing to step into the thing. And I knew, when you know that God has set you here, and I knew he had set Andrea here as the prophet, that got established a couple of weeks. If anybody had a doubt, that got established a couple of weeks before Pastor Jean passed away. And so when that got established, it was like, okay, now that's settled, so we're not going to have to be having that conversation. Now, as far as who was going to be the leader of the church, I didn't know who was going to be the leader of the church, but I knew God knew who was going to be the leader of the church. She knew. She's a prophet. She's been talking to me. Actually, she's been talking to me about it since 2015. And it's like, Andrea, I don't want to be the pastor of the church. You're the only one that can do it, Kathy.
That's right.
You're qualified.
And she has a strength about her. And I think that's the
And
thing.
I love the people.
Yeah.
I mean, I do love the people.
Yes.
Sometimes that's been to my detriment, but I guess it never really is to your detriment to love people. But
No.
it's heartbreaking sometimes. It's very heartbreaking. Yes. But the Lord heals that, and you move forward.
And there's a grace on the gift.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You got to put a demand on that.
There's a grace on that you don't really realize until you're in the thick of it.
Yes.
And then you suddenly have a supernatural grace that you feel you want to quit. But you have that supernatural gift to press through that. And there was times it felt like a death to a certain degree. It really did. But you have the grace, and God just gives you that to stand in the midst of all of that. And I think that's really, I came to her a lot. I mean, we were having prayer meetings. I mean, we didn't stop. And I think that's, you don't ever lose unless you quit, And we didn't do that. And I think that was just a determination of, we're just not going to quit. We're going to keep pressing on, because we know what the Lord has said. And then, you have people come along that begin to speak into that and establish that and confirm that. So then that gives you another push to just keep doing what the Lord has called you to do in this house. And that's really what we have done. And now, I mean, it's exciting because you begin to see, it's exciting when you see the fruit of some of your labor, and you begin to see, the people that you poured into beginning to grow. And that, to me, is the most exciting thing.
That you can see, man, they're going to go way beyond me. The revelation they're getting already, wow.
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's why you do it. I mean, that's why apostles and prophets are in the house. Mm-hmm. That's why they're the foundation, is so that the others can grow, and they have a safe place to practice and to grow and to mature. And I really feel like, and I've been getting excited. I was talking to Joy, our pastoral leader, and I was telling her how excited I'm getting. So I was like, I see things beginning to move forward, and I see people that are actually beginning to, something different is coming alive in them. Mm-hmm. And you can see how that's beginning to happen, and that gets really exciting when you're doing ministry and you're equipping, and you want to see other people stepping into who they're called to be, and that's the whole reason you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it gets really exciting in that. And that's, there's a lot of cost involved, but then you look at what is beginning to come out of it, and it makes it worth it.
You said something very, very key. You said that there's a grace that you don't really realize is there.
Yeah.
And grace is just the endowment of God. That's all it is. It's God's supernatural ability. God's power working in you to do things that in and of yourself you cannot do.
Exactly.
But you said something so key. You said that you had to place a demand on it.
Yes, you have to demand. You have to put a demand on it.
And we recognize that we have the assignment. We feel like quitting and know that we can't. We know that there's no quit in us. How did you learn to place the demand on that grace to carry you through when you felt like quitting? It's not like second nature to you. There's modifications. There's things that you have to do to yield to that grace. How did you do that?
I'll let you.
I don't know, Apostle. That's just something that I've been doing it for so long. I can't even tell you how I learned to do it. I made a decision to obey.
There you go.
Make a decision to obey and apply the truth. The truth that's in you, you do.
There you go.
Because what is it in the book of James? It says that a man that faith without works is dead. And if you're not applying what you have faith for, you're not making application of the word of God in your life. I use that scripture because that's the one it's coming to my mind. But if you don't make application, you're just like a man that looks in the mirror and walks away and doesn't even remember what he looks like.
Right.
You've got to, when you get a hold of truth, it's just like encounters. People go from place to place to get an encounter with God, but nothing ever changes in their life.
Say that again, Apostle. You just hit a whammy right there.
They go from place to place to encounter presence. And I love the presence of God. Don't get me wrong. And I love being in those places where encounters happen. But encounters is not the end of it. You got to go process that encounter with the Lord. It may take a long time. It may take months or years. But if there's no transformation, where your mind is not renewed, and you do not change, that encounter is pointless.
Right.
Save your money and stay home.
There you go.
That's it.
Boy, and they say I'm hard.
The apostle comes out in me every now and then.
Am I rubbing off on you, hon?
No, this is just how I am. That's probably why I'm in this position. I got myself into it because it's just how I am. I didn't know it when I got into this position that was part of what apostles are. It's just the black and white of the matter. I mean, we got a generation. We've got a generation that there's no change.
Yep.
They can continue to live in sin and make excuses for why these things, but they go from encounter to encounter. They go, and it's not knocking any of these ministries. I love and appreciate because I believe personally that every ministry has its purpose. It just isn't the purpose of this house. And that's one of the things the Lord started showing me for this year is really help us come into what it really means to be an apostolic hub, a revival hub, is really to build the house of God. And Jesus said, my Father's house should be called a house of prayer for the nations. And we have to build that house. And so it's not going to look like everybody else. And we're not going to get to do Bethel music all the time. And I'm just using that because that's the most, and I love Bethel music. But if that's not who your DNA is, you got to go with who you are. And not all, we're here to build the house of God. Now, I can't tell you for 1 minute how all that gets done. But I just know that's what we're here to do. Did that get off track somehow?
No, you're good. You're good. I want to talk a little bit and get into a little bit more nitty gritty in your relationship and in your linking together, because you have gifts that are similar and gifts that are different.
Mhm.
And being an apostle and a prophet, they both have different functions to the body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways that they equip the body. And they're made to complement one another, not to compete with one another.
Mm-hmm.
How did the two of you, other than the fact that you have a long-standing relationship that you've grown into,
Mhm.
through the process, because you didn't start your relationship as I'm Apostle Kathy and I'm Prophetess Andrea. You didn't start there.
No.
You
I was
grew.
Mr. Kathy and she was Andrea.
You grew into these functions. You grew into these assignments. But how did you yield to each other and make it where you honored what each other is bringing to the table, and not be threatened by what each other is bringing to the table? Because that's what makes a successful partnership. Many times people look at Prophetess Angie and I, and they're amazed at the way that we honor each other and flow together. And because there's no competitiveness, there's no jealousy. We've both been at it for too long and have nothing to prove. And when I'm with you, in person or like this, or when I interact with you through messages or emails or texts or whatever, you're the same way. And you two have the same thing. How did you not be inferior to one another, but honor one another and let the beauty of your uniqueness come out and be celebrated? People need to see this and hear it and know it in real life. They get all the theory and all the stuff that we teach, but they don't see people live it. And you two live it.
Well, I guess I'll start on this one.
Yes, go ahead.
Boy, how easily she yielded the floor.
Go for it, sugar, go.
I think it wasn't necessarily easy at first. I think, through time, it makes it easier. As we were coming into those roles, it was a little bit rocky maybe at first, I want to say, but
no, it was fun for 6 months.
We had a honeymoon. Okay, it was good. The butterflies were flying. It was wonderful for a little while, and then it started getting rocky. But I think learning to navigate that can be a little bit difficult. And I'm a prophet, and I also have a little bit of a strong personality.
No.
Yes.
Really?
Oh, really?
I'm really sweet, but I can also be really direct at times, which can be kind of brash, can come across a little bit, So the Lord has helped me tame that somewhat.
I can relate to that big time.
But with Kathy, I'm pretty real, and she's pretty real with me too. And so I think it really did help us knowing each other. But at times, she would get on to me a little bit because I would be too direct and too.
Uh-oh.
I'm telling the truth, right?
I'm not saying a word.
She'll let me just tell all the bad stuff. But it was a little bit difficult. I mean, to work within those personalities, because it's like having two bosses. And I told her at one point, I'm okay, if you're the big boss, as long as I get to be the little boss. And I was serious.
Yes, she was.
As long as I can be the little boss. But so we both have kind of a bossy personality naturally. And so, but I think just over time, and I think it's key to know how to honor authority. I think if you don't know that, you're going to be in big trouble, and you probably shouldn't be in any kind of position anyway. But I don't think it would have worked out if I did not understand how to honor authority. And there was times that I felt like I might have crossed the line, and and I would come and I would talk to her, and I would go, I may have crossed, and I would be honest and go, I may have, crossed the line there if I did tell me. But I'm a very I don't want to say confrontational, but I like to have conversations. If there's something going on either inside of me or outside, with others or whatever, I'm wanting to, we need to talk about this. We need to, what's going on here. I'm very much that way. And Kathy's not as much that way. She's more of a, let time sort it out, which is kind of difficult for me. So we had that little friction going on every once in a while, because I would be more like, time is not sorting this out. This is getting bad. This is getting real bad. We need to do something now. That was, and I was not telling her what to do, but I would communicate to her how I felt. And I tried to always be careful not to be too pushy. Although at some point I knew, I would have to drop, okay, Andrea, it's time to keep your mouth shut. And because Kathy has to process too. And I think that was in our process that we had to learn how to navigate that. Each other's roles and learning your role. And I came to realize there was times where I felt like, well, she didn't trust me, or she wasn't really hearing me. And I had to just kind of deal with some of that in me. And then
you have to deal with
some of the things that are going on within you. And I would come to her too, and I would explain to her things or ask her questions. And I would always try to be very careful not to be ugly or pushy or try to tell her how to do it. I was very careful not to do that. But I grew up understanding authority. And I think you have to know how to honor authority, even when you
don't agree.
You don't agree. And we didn't always agree.
No. And we didn't always agree with the authority before.
No, but that doesn't mean you don't know how to submit and go, okay. And that's the place where I think I learned, and where you learn and mature is even when you don't agree, you say what you need to say, and then you give it to the Lord.
And move on.
And you move on, and then you watch God work. And He does. And Kathy and I were talking about this just the other day about how, over and over again, I would see, how God would begin to speak, and He would do it with Kathy too. He'd begin to speak to her. He'd begin to show her things. And then all of a sudden something would shift. And it was just a matter of being able to let that go and then let the Lord work. And so that was part of us learning how to work together, I think. I mean, it was a
different kind of, because we worked together. We worked together in her business, but we've worked together in ministry, and she, we worked together as teacher, student. It was just another process, and knowing how to work together differently. But part of it too, Apostle Michael, the struggles is that you don't always fully understand your role. This is new. I mean, you've got a good foothold on it, but for us in this transition, we started reading books on the fivefold, and we knew that this is what we needed to do, but we hadn't had it mirrored. We didn't have it mirrored.
Yeah.
We are pioneering that in this house. And we really appreciate that God has you and Prophetess Angie and Apostle Anthony, Apostle Nigel. There's several apostles that we're linked with in different ways that have been able to speak into this house that have helped us. And we appreciate that. And it really, the thing about how you learn how to work through these relationship things is that you yourself have to go to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, I need you to help search my heart. Search my heart, because I got to know, am I dealing with these feelings that I'm feeling, is it because I'm feeling jealous? I'm feeling insecure. I'm feeling like people don't trust me. Because you're getting all these things coming at you. And so you have to work through that process and work through it even with the word my process is until I hear God say something or he gives me a scripture that speaks life to that situation. I don't really much want to do anything because people are important to God. You can't go around hurting his people.
Yeah.
And if you don't handle it correctly, and like I said, I made some mistakes, so people did get hurt. And that I am very sad about. I just have to trust God to heal all that. And that's his business. And I believe he will. Things may not always be the same, but I believe he'll heal the things that need to be healed. But you have to go through your own journey and take personal responsibility in any relationship. It's just like in a marriage. I remember one time the Lord told me that what he had for my husband was just as important as what he had for me to do. And that was like a light bulb going off. And it's like, I had to readjust my thinking. I didn't have to make the changes I thought I was going to have to make with my life because God took care of it. But what he wanted me to see, that I'm not the only important person in the equation. Mm-hmm. And what God's called me to do is not the only important thing. He's called myself and Andrea for this part, for the apostolic and prophetic leadership of this house, of this hub. He set us in this place, and he's called, and the other people he's bringing alongside us, their call and what he's got them to do is just as important. And I appreciate the ones that cleans the toilets. Mm-hmm. We need them.
Absolutely.
And there's an anointing to do it.
Absolutely.
Believe it or not.
Absolutely.
That's the okay.
All right. You hit on something really, really key, and I don't know if people caught it because maybe they don't know all the dynamics of the relationships here. So I'm going to spell it out a little bit and put some of my insight into this and address it in relation to Prophetess Angie and myself. So Apostle Kathy is the set woman.
Yes.
In the local apostolic hub. In a former wineskin, it would have been known as a local church. Mm-hmm. But in a new wineskin, it's known as an apostolic hub. Yes. And there are people that are part of the apostolic hub that aren't necessarily part of the local fellowship because multiple other congregations, their leaders participate. So Apostle Kathy's the set woman in the local fellowship and in the apostolic hub. Okay, I'm hoping everybody follows me as I make this distinction. Now, Prophetess Andrea, her and her husband own several businesses. They are business people. So besides her being in the ministry, she, like me, is bivocational. She has a secular job or jobs. Besides being a mama, besides being a wife, she's a business owner. And she's a prophet. And she's part of the leadership in a local hub. I'm hoping everybody's following me here. Now, in the local hub and in the local fellowship, with Apostle Kathy being the set woman, that means she is the chief under shepherd under the great shepherd.
That's right. Yes.
And others that are in leadership and part of the leadership team are in submission to the set woman, the under shepherd.
That's right.
Now, Prophetess Angie and I, Prophetess Angie is the set woman in the local fellowship that I am a part of. when I am not out on the road, I have a local church. I have a local fellowship, a local body of believers that I am a part of. And Prophetess Angie is the set woman. So when I am there, I am submitted to her authority as the set woman within that local fellowship or that local house. And so if she's got a question about something maybe I say or something I do, she has every right to call me on the phone and to call me on the carpet if she wants to. Now, when we do regional alignment meetings,
Yes.
that's under my apostolic authority.
Different hat.
It's a different hat. And now I'm the set man in the regional alignment meeting. When Prophetess Angie comes, she's under my authority. And so we take turns yielding to each other, depending on the circle or sphere that we're in and who's wearing what hat. So now you have this church relationship, this ministry relationship, where Andrea is walking in submission to the set woman, the under shepherd of the great shepherd. But now Prophetess and her husband that own businesses, Apostle Kathy has worked for them.
Yeah, and they were the boss.
That's right.
In their businesses. So here's an interesting dynamic. So in one circle, Andrea is the boss, and Apostle Kathy has to submit because she's the employee, and Andrea is the employer. Where in the local hub, in the local fellowship, Apostle Kathy's the set woman. She's the boss.
Yep.
And Andrea is a member of the team.
Yep. That's right.
So this is an interesting dynamic, and yet you've been able to make it work, and you haven't lost your partnership because you've respected the boundaries and the roles and the authority.
Exactly.
Talk about that, because a lot of folks don't get it.
You just do it.
Yeah, you just do it.
When you know what the Word of God says about things, Apostle Michael, and you really love the Word and you want to obey the Word, you apply that to your life and to your situations.
That's right. I feel like it's just a matter of being able to yield. You use that word a lot about yielding one to another. And I think that's important. I mean, we aren't the only members. I mean, Kathy is the set person. She's the head. I mean, under Christ, like you said. But there's other team members we have in this body. There's a pastor, there's a teacher, and they all play roles. You know, they all have roles to play, and we submit to them as well. And they're vital members of our body. And I think that's a key is being able to submit one to another, not just, but being understanding how to do that and honoring the authority and the role they carry. And when you see somebody, and I think, a lot of people, they don't understand titles and they don't like titles, but without a title, you don't have the same honor and respect. There's a respect and an honor that comes with that. And I think that's why that title is necessary, is because there is an honor that goes with that. And when you understand that honor, then you come in alignment and in agreement with that person, and you can reap. And I think that's what the scripture says too, when you reap that benefit that they carry, and you can actually come under their grace that they're walking in, and you can reap the benefit from them because you're submitting yourself to them. And I think it's just important to understand how to do that. And when we walk together in a body, I mean, I'm not competing against Kathy, and she's not competing against me. If we were, it would be a mess.
Oh my gosh, nightmare.
It would be a mess.
Yeah, it would. It'd be hard.
Who wants to do that? I mean, I know that sometimes people think people are, and I think there's people that have thought that even about myself and Andrea. But
We have strong personalities.
We just have strong personalities, but we know how to work it out amongst ourselves because we know how to. You know, when I worked for her one incident, she came and she was giving me a new project to do, and I said, I really don't want to learn to do that because I got enough to do. And at the time, I had a lot of things, but I could do it, and she let me know that I was going to do it, so I submitted to that, and it actually wasn't a big deal. But what I did is I let her know that I really didn't want to learn to do that. Well, then we had another young employee that came later on and didn't really like the way that Andrea set up her filing system. And I had to tell that young employee, you know what? She's the boss. And this is my training. I've been trained in administration and filing and things, and I know how it's supposed to be done. But Andrea set up her filing system the way she wants it done, irregardless. Now, it goes against some of because you've been trained one way, but when you have a boss and they want it done this way, you do it that way.
Right.
And I guess that's how, and all of that goes back to you learn how to do that when you apply biblical truth. I just can't, that's my answer to everything. I mean, I know that people want more answers sometimes, but when you live your life with the biblical worldview, the Bible is your standard. It is your guide. This is my plumb line. So I'm going to do that as perfectly as I can. None of us do it perfectly, but when I know a truth, I got to do a truth. And I learned really early on that if you wanted the Lord to ever promote you to a place of leadership and authority, you're going to have to learn how to come under authority. And that's not just in the church. It's on your job. It's in your homes. It's wherever. I don't know if that really answers your question.
No, that's good. Because if you haven't learned how to be under authority, you can't exercise authority. And that's why Jesus marveled when the centurion came to him. And he said, you understand authority like nobody else, because the centurion said, I say to this man, go, and he goes. This man, come, and he comes. But I'm under authority too. And my superior tells me, and I do what I'm told. And so because he was under authority, he could exercise authority. I remember when I was in Bible school, one of the instructors we had said, you will only be able to exercise authority to the degree that you are under authority. And that's absolutely true. And it works, and it's true in every area of life. I spent probably 20 years or so of my life in the restaurant and catering business. And
thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, y'all can testify.
Yes, we can. It's awesome.
And one of the places that I worked for was an Italian caterer, and it was called Joey's Italian Kitchen was the name of the business. And some of Joey's recipes were different than my recipes. But when I was working for Joey, guess whose recipes I made?
Joey's. Because it didn't say Mike's over the door. It said Joey's over the door. And so I had to make the recipes the way Joey made the recipe. His marinade was different than my marinade. He made brown sauce different than I did it. I always made a roux and would thicken it with the roux. He would make a slurry out of flour and water, stir it in, and then strain it through a china cap to get the lumps out. I would never make a brown sauce that way, but that was the way that he did it. So guess how I did it? I was working for him. He was signing my paycheck. I did it his way. And so that's true in every area of life. And the fact that you've been able to navigate the role of switching and submitting to one another's authority
is, I think, a key of what makes you work and what makes a linking of a team. And the reason I wanted the two of you to come on was twofold tonight. Number one, God gave me a mandate that I did not ask for. And one of the mandates that God gave me was to promote women in ministry. And I do everything in my power and everything that I can to promote women in ministry. And so regularly, and you know, because you've been watching me for about 2 years, I have women as guests on my Facebook Lives, probably more than I do men.
Yes.
Because God said, promote women in ministry. I didn't ask for that assignment, but I got it anyway. And so I wanted you here because of that. I wanted you, I lied for 3 reasons. I wanted you here. I wanted you here because you're dear friends.
Yes.
And I love y'all. And so I wanted you to be here because you're my friends. And a lot of people don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You are gems that are hidden that nobody knows. And that needs to change. Because what you carry and what you walk in is something that people need to see and people need to know. And it's one thing, like I said, to hear all the doctrine and hear all the teaching, but without seeing it lived before you.
Yes.
And you live this thing.
Yeah.
And I know that you live it because I've been with you. I've hung around with you. I've sat around the table with you and I've talked with you. And I know that you live it. And people need to be exposed to what you walk in and what you carry. Number 3, people haven't seen 2 ladies be in partnership. They've not. It's rare that they even see 2 men that are in partnership.
Yeah.
Never mind 2 ladies. And most people think that, it can't happen. Folks, it can happen. God is not limited to gender in any way. When he said there's neither male nor female, he meant it.
Right.
If we have lady apostles in Scripture and lady prophets in Scripture, there's no reason that we can't have a lady apostle and a lady prophet be partnered together, be linked together, be pulling together like a hitched yoke of oxen. Not that these ladies are a yoke of oxen, but I'm just making a point. Please don't say, oh, Apostle Michael said. No, I didn't said.
I'm the lead one.
And so I really wanted you to come out and just be totally honest, which you have been. Because people get, like I said, they get the theory, but they don't get real life. And the more real you are about the struggles of it and how to do it and making it work, the more it helps people. And so I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules, out of your busy lives, to come and spend an hour with your crazy brother from up north. And just being open and honest and talking from your hearts and telling it like it is. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to do it. And Apostle Kathy, you told me you fessed up before we went live and you said you've been resisting. And I think if I didn't ask you, you probably still wouldn't have done it. I think you only done it because I asked you.
Exactly.
Well, now you got no one.
I love you and I honor you and I trust that the Lord knows what he's doing. You don't have to. I'm been one of these weird kind of that just trusted the Lord to the degree that if he opened the door, then I'm supposed to walk through it, even if it's something I'm not comfortable with or I figure I have a green light till he turns it red.
There you go.
And so I just, until he turns the light red, I'm moving forward. If that door opens, then I need to walk through it. And so here we are.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm so glad you did. I really appreciate it. I believe for the ladies that are watching and for those that will watch, I think this has really been a blessing to them. And even for some of us pig-headed men, it probably helped us too. And so if God can get through to a knucklehead like me, there's hope for anybody. And so I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you want to talk about that you're doing locally, maybe for people that are in your region or in your area that's upcoming besides Lions and Eagles at, the end of the year? And you can talk about that too, if you want to, whatever,
Well,
anything you want to talk about.
we do a monthly at the first Saturday evening of the month here. We host a Watchman Prophets gathering. We come in here and we invite people in the region to come in because it's for the region. It's not just for our house now. And we come in and we do worship and we intercede for whatever the Lord directs us. Usually it's really the focus of that gathering is to pray into things concerning our region, because God has said some things about our region, and it's our responsibility to pray into that and decree into that. And there are times when He takes us into more things going on in the state or the nation, but pretty much we do. Those Watchman Prophet gatherings are designed to, just for the worshipers and the prophetic intercessors and the prophets to come together and we have that coming up next week. I think it's February the 6th. And then in March, we have Apostle Anthony coming in.
My brother from another mother.
Yes, he's coming back in. He's coming in on the weekend, March, I think it's March 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we're going to do a Watchman Intercessors gathering where we're going to incorporate the worship. Anthony's involved in a lot of, and he's an apostle of worship, and he really he's linked with James Nesbitt and Ed Watts, and they go out throughout, and even Jamie Fibb. They go through different places throughout the nation and worship and pray and decree over land and things. And anyways, so he's coming in, and this meeting in March is going to be geared that way for just for him to talk to us about that particular I don't even know vein of how we watch and we worship and we intercede. And I may have another. I'm thinking about inviting someone else to come and do some speaking too, but it's mostly this is we love to have Apostle Anthony.
Apostle Anthony is going to be my guest in 3 weeks.
I know, I saw that. I'm so excited about him being with you.
He's going to be with me in 3 weeks, and we're going to be talking about worship and atmospheres and how worship changes and sets the atmosphere. Mm-hmm. And we're also going to be talking about being a spiritual father and a mentor.
Yes, see, that is, and the thing, one of the, he'll be back with us, Lions and Eagles, in
October.
We're very honored to know that we connected you.
That's right, you did.
With Papa Anthony.
Oh. You did.
You got to play a role in making that connection.
Well,
that is one of the things that I love most, is being able to connect people so that the kingdom is advanced.
Well, the really amazing thing is I met him in 2019, and we both sensed that there was something there but neither one of us really pursued it.
Ornery boys.
Well, it just wasn't.
Time.
It wasn't the full timing, I don't think.
Yeah, it is. I know. I'm just
But
ornery.
this year, or this past October, when we were back, and Ange came with me,
Mm-hmm.
it was like the threefold cord,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened between the three of us.
I know I had to work on my jealous thing right there.
Oh, okay, we're gonna have deliverance later.
I may have to have some deliverance. I worked on it. I got delivered.
But I've been in contact. I've been in contact with Anthony quite a bit since we were there. I've been texting with them and messaging with him on Messenger, and I'm so excited that he's going to be with me in 3 weeks. And I look forward to October when we're back there again.
Yeah,
looking forward to that conference and being with y'all. I love y'all deeply.
yes, we love you.
Yes, and Apostle Don's going to be with us too.
I know. He's ecstatic. I talked to him. He said, "Bro, we're gonna flow together." So he's just.
And actually, I really am sensing that we need to do a panel like we did with you and Ange, but with you and Don and Anthony as apostolic fathers.
We could
Really?
do that.
I know y'all can.
We could do that.
I have full confidence. And it's like,
and not only could we, we'd be very happy to.
I know. People need to know that, I think the panel things like what we did with you and Angie, they're helpful. They're very helpful to people. We had a lot of feedback about, they really love that. The fact that how y'all flowed together and so I'm just kind of sensing that a little bit. I'm just throwing that out there. You might not have wanted it public, but there you go.
Well, here's the deal. You are the set woman in the house. And when we come in to hitch our wagon to the train that you're pulling.
Yes.
I'm the caboose on the end. And I'm just hitching to what you're doing, and I'm here to help. And whatever it is that you need or you want, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
And
I think that's a very needful subject that needs to be talked about. I mean, you talk about it a lot, but not everybody that comes into our gatherings hear you. So, but they need to.
Good Lord, I'm easy to find. I'm everywhere.
And they need to meet some fathers and have those fathers talk about being a father.
Well, I'd be thrilled to do that. I know Don would, and I know Anthony would. So if that's what you want to do, you just go ahead and schedule it, and we will play ball.
Yeah, and then we'll have Sister Angie in there. Lord, she's going to be a powerhouse, isn't she? She's going to have a whole year to prepare, nearly.
Oh, she's always prepared.
No.
She's always prepared. She's got a reservoir in her innards.
I know she
from years of input. Andrea,
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug or anything you want to talk about besides what Apostle said?
No, I will be here at all of those things with my boots on.
I'll have my boots on. You will be kicking your shoes off and we'll be barefoot in the front row.
You're correct. I will be.
You don't wear no boots. Don't you lie.
You might be surprised because it may be time to put on our boots. It's time to get some boots on the ground.
Well, that'd be all right if you put them on. That'd be nice. It wouldn't just be me.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. If you think this is beneficial, can help somebody, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Hit the share button and share this to your timeline or your group or wherever. If you think some ladies need to see this and hear what these two wonderful women of God have said, then go ahead and share it. And like they always used to say, and the favorite show when I was a child. Next week, it'll be same bat time and same bat channel. Next week, I will have Prophet Mike Hendrick from Canada will be with me, and we will be talking about conquering fear. Next week will be the subject that we will be discussing. And in the immortal words of my dear friend, Dr. Don Hughes, God loves you, and we love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. Good night, everybody. God bless you. We'll see you soon.